Hello again. My name is Ryan Pinchot, and I'm an educator at the Hispanic Society Museum and Library in New York City. In collaboration with the Queen Sofía Spanish Institute and in recognition of Hispanic Heritage Month, today we will be presenting the fourth and final object in our series on the maps of the Hispanic Society. I hope that you'll enjoy learning about this map of the Ucayali River. The spectacular map of the Ucayali River depicts one of the most remote regions of Peru in the Amazonian rainforest. Prepared by Franciscan missionaries with the assistance of indigenous artists and/or informants, the map geographically portrays the fauna of the Ucayali. We see manatee, bears, boars, jaguars, llamas, monkeys, turtles, and parrots. The indigenous peoples in scenes of hunting and fishing, along with their inherent perils. The legend at the bottom identifies Franciscan missions established up to 1807, the Ucayali tributaries, and the areas inhabited by the indigenous peoples, the Anti, or the Ashaninka, the Kashibo, the Shantakiro, the Conibo, the Ipitiniri, the Panobo, the Shatibo, and the Shipibo. Beginning in the 16th century, explorers and missionaries entered the Amazon and its tributaries. They came with various motives: a desire to convert indigenous peoples to Christianity, to extend the reach of the Spanish monarchy, as well as to enrich themselves. Both the fierceness of the tribes living there, as well as the remoteness of the Ucayali River, made such incursions difficult. European settlement remained extremely difficult, but by the 17th century both the Franciscan and the Jesuit orders had established themselves enough to engage in active dispute over which group would ultimately control the Ucayali River. In 1686, the two groups entered into formal legal proceedings, often employing maps, among other means of testimony, in an attempt to prove their knowledge and command of the region. The Franciscans' efforts at colonization were further hampered in the mid-1700s due to the indigenous rebellion led by Juan Santos Atahualpa, which lasted from 1742 to 1752, causing the destruction or evacuation of many missions. Later, the Crown launched a program of reconquest of the central Amazonian region as a part of the Bourbon reforms, which was intensified under Charles III. After the 1767 expulsion of the Jesuit order from all territories of the Spanish monarchy, the Franciscans persisted, making a last sustained effort that began in 1790. Father Manuel Sobreviela's map of Peru, published in the Mercurio Peruano, reflects this precise moment when the Franciscans stood at the forefront of opening the Amazon to the Spanish Empire. The routes delineated in the map were meant, Sobreviela said, as a guide for the residents of Peru that want to penetrate those vast regions, to make themselves rich with the resources that abound. This interest in routes, transportation, exploitation, and commercialization reflects numerous projects and reforms of the time with aims to improve the economic conditions of the Spanish Empire. The Hispanic Society map corresponds, at least in part, to knowledge gained during various expeditions between 1804 and 1806, in which friars based at the Colegio Franciscano de Propaganda Fide de Moquegua established a string of missions on the Ucayali. Perhaps the most accomplished of these friars was one Friar Ramon Busquets, who is credited as the first Franciscan to transit the full length of the Ucayali. In an 1808 letter detailing the expedition, Busquets describes dangerously rough waters, accompanied by grave bouts of malaria, as well as what he called unbridled dysentery. He ended his journey in a single canoe with only a few indigenous caretakers, who, he said, took care of him as if they were his own father. According to its legend, the Hispanic Society map depicts conquered peoples and the rivers where they live. However, Busquets' account underscores that the Amazonian region
often proved itself particularly inhospitable to colonial administration. The account also brings to light an important note about this map's authorship. Franciscan knowledge production in the Amazon was constructed upon and in dialogue with the indigenous knowledge that preceded it. The safe passage of Spanish travelers through the Amazonian River basin, as well as the resulting interpretations of those territories, would not have been possible without a small army of indigenous assistants and early indigenous converts. Despite this collaboration, maps like this one operated as an essential tool in furthering the colonial project, solidifying European conceptions of territory that facilitated resource extraction throughout the New World.
Thank you so much for joining us to learn about the Latin American maps of the Hispanic Society. Please find us at hispanicsociety.org. Take care.